Welcome to the session Saptune Advanced Usage. My name is Sören Schmidt, and together with Angela Briel, who is sadly not here today, we are behind the development of Saptune. So this session will be about the advanced usage of Saptune. So I expect that you are familiar with the basic one so that you can apply a node or a solution, revert it, and do a verify. So in this demo, I will use the version 3.1, which has not been released yet. It will take at least maybe 1 to a month until we can release it to the public. So currently, if you are using Saptune, you will still have the version 3.0, but any example we use today will be possible with it. The differences are mostly cosmetic nature, and I will explicitly say when there is a difference or a major difference between both versions. So before we start, let's have a look on our test system. And I think with the command saptune status familiar, so it gives us an overview about the Saptune configuration. Currently, as said, 3.1.0 is the version I use. The service is enabled and active, and currently I have the HANA solution applied. So if you look at this and compare it with the output of 3.0, primary all information will be there, but the output is a bit different. In 3.1, we tried to streamline and cleaned it a bit, so it's more comprehensive and easier to understand. A major change which will come with 3.1 is the tuning information. With 3.0, you get all the information about the applied nodes, solutions, if the service is active, and so on, but not if the tuning is currently correct or not. This we have added in 3.1, so you have one command. With 3.0, we have to do a second step to check if the tuning is really as it should be. And there are many commands to do that. All are have a verify. So let's say solution verify, for example. Ignore the warnings. I will come to them later. But the most important part we have here, this is the last sentence. Our system is currently well tuned. Everything is fine. And here you see another difference between 3.0 and 3.1. We introduced a little bit more color to 3.1 so that it's easier to spot important things. So the first topic for today is changing the settings of a shipped node. And for that, I have picked one node from the enabled HANA solution. And this would be the node where it is 2382421. So let's have a closer look. Saptune node verify. Oops. And here we see, there it is. It is the network configuration node for HANA. So two parameters I'll pick. The first one will be TW reuse. Currently set to 2. Everything is fine, says Saptune. But if I go to the expected column, I see there is no value. So, and this is the case for quite a lot of parameters in this node, and this is a bit special for that node, that there is no clear recommendation which value to set. So, and if you check the SAP node, you will see that most of the parameters depend heavily on configuration of HANA, of your network setup, or your entire environment. So it's extremely difficult safely for Saptune to calculate any values. So that's the reason that this is empty. But we put the parameters there that in case you have an environment where you have to set those values, that you can do this. And With reuse, this is a perfect example because this is one of the parameters which are mentioned in the node but have no default recommendation. And in our case, I say we have to set this to 1. So that would be, it fits such a scenario. The second parameter will be TCP syn Here we have a clear recommendation in the SAP node. It should be set to 8. What it is, therefore, everything is fine. So if we, let's clear the screen first. If you want to change something, the first impulse will be to edit something. So let's try this. And we get immediately an error because internal nodes cannot be edited. Custom nodes, we will come to that later, that's possible. But internal nodes, the shipped ones, are fixed as they are. And but we also get here a little hint what to do. The correct way to change anything is to customize the solution. So let's do this. Customize node 23824221. And now it works. At least I got into an editor with an entire copy of the node. So please keep in mind what we create here will be an override file in the end. So anything put in that file supersedes the shipped one. So my recommendation would be delete anything from this override file except only the parameters you really want to change. So my first step here will be delete a lot of it. Now first some comments and the version section. Next one is the sysctl section header, which I have to keep because in Saptune node configurations, each parameter is part of a section. So I have to keep the section header, otherwise it won't work. And the both parameters we are using here are part of this CTL. Now the deletion continues until I see the parameter, the first parameter pop up. Timestamp there is reuse, almost there. And right below we have syn retries, the other one I want to change. And let's delete. So that's all what's left in my customization override file. We have the header of the section and we have our two parameters. And the first one is reuse. It's currently not set, but I want for some reason to have 1 in here. And the other one, the retries, is set to 8. But here I want to say leave it alone. The reason that I want to leave it alone is maybe the default of the operating system is okay for you, or perhaps you have other means of setting this parameter. In any case, I want that Saptune does not care about this parameter and leave it as it is. So that's our override file. Let's save it. And we get information here. You just edit node is already applied. That's correct. It's part of our HANA solution. We know that. And to get our changes to take effect, please revert the node. So we have just configured the override, the customization, but it's not applied yet on the system. This is a separate step. But before I do so, let me let's peek behind the curtain. So what did the Saptune node customize command really did? Is created in etc Saptune a specific file. So we have two directories, and for the customization, we have to go to override, and there we see there is a file with the same name as the node, and have a look into the file and see it's actually our override file. So this means that you do not have to use the customize command because it's interactive. You can create this text file anywhere you want, just place it into the override directory and Saptune will use it. So let's do a verify again. Remember, we have changed the configuration, but have not applied it. So we can expect that something is not in order, and Saptune says the parameters listed above have deviated from the specified node. So I think we have expected that. The TW reuse parameter is still set to 2, but we told Saptune we expect a 1. We see now we have the override column filled. Here we set to 1, and here we set to untouched, meaning ignore it. So 8 is fine now for Saptune, as it was before. What we next have to do to take this configuration into action is to reapply the node. So there are several methods. We could revert the node, reapply the node. We could revert this entire solution, reapply the solution. Let's me do, I think, the method you come to your mind first. It's restarting the service. So Saptune restart. Saptune service restart. That's the right one. So now it tells system D to stop and start Saptune service, which means reverting and reapplying the configured solutions or nodes. So it happened. Let's clear the screen and do a node verify again. And we see the system is free performance. We have reuse now set to 1 by Saptune, like our override file says. And we see that syn retries now has been changed to 6, which is the default from the operating system. But since we have said leave it alone, don't change it, ignore it completely, Saptune is completely fine with 6 as well. So last check, is our entire solution still correct? So Saptune solution verify. And wonderful, the entire solution. So still the entire tuning is as we expect it to be. So that's the way how you can change existing parameters of a node. Just use a customize command or place a correct override file into the etc Saptune override directory. Our next example is how to create your own node. So the motivation for this can be that if you want to use Saptune to configure a certain system parameter which is not part of an existing node you wish to apply on the system. So in our example, let's say we want that pings, so ICMP echo packages get not replied on the system, let's say for security concerns. So how we can do this? Of course, this is the possibility to do this with firewall rules, but there's also a sysctl parameter called net IPv4 ICMP echo ignore all, which is currently set to 0. And if this parameter is set to 1, then the system will not answering to ping anymore. We limit this in this example to IPv4. Of course, there's a similar configuration option for IPv6 as well. So our plan would be to create a node which has a sysctl section, some similar what we have seen in our override file, and then we're setting this parameter to 1. To make this a little bit more interesting, we also want to limit this section or the change from 0 to 1, so the blocking of ICMP pings, only to a certain part of our environment. So in my case, let's say I only want that for some reason that only virtual machines are affected by the change. nothing else. So the question is, how can I tell Saptune to limit a certain configuration only for certain types of systems? To do so, the version 3.0 introduced tagging, and besides of some internal tags we provide, it is also possible to use certain files as tags as well. So, and in my case, let's have a look to this class EMI ID. First look into this directory, and each file in this directory can directly be used as a tag. And from the naming, you see this ideal possibility to limit configurations to certain types of machines, to specific series, whatever. And also, it would possible here to limit configurations to certain cloud vendors, because AWS, Google, and Azure would have different contents in different files. So in my example, I will use the file product family. And if we have a look, it has the content virtual machine. The reason for that is I'm running my test system on as a virtual machine. If you have a hardware here, then or a cloud system, you should have different content. So the trick is choose the right tag, the right file with the right content to limit the configuration. So now we have everything which we need. So the next step would be creating the node. For that, we have the command saptune node create, and we have to give it a meaningful name, let's say network, because it's a network related node, and VM to indicate it has something to do with virtual machines only. After hitting enter, I'm in an editor, and I get a template for a subnode, which I just have to fill in. So to save time, let me delete the entire content, and I have prepared the content I need. That's it. Let's go quickly through the file. The first, we need a version section where we can set the version number, date, and a description of the subnode. So, and here's the first difference, or the only difference, to be frankly, between 3.0 and 3.1. So this is 3.0. Here we have introduced an entire section. In 3.0, you still have all these settings in one line as a comment. So that's the major difference between the two versions. So if you use 3.0, please look at the main page or just fill in the template you get to set all the information like version date, description, etc. The important thing is right below. We have, of course, a sysctl section again. And here we see the tag separated from the section name by a color. And as said, a tag can be a file in the sysclass DMI ID directory. So we have product family here. And if the content of the file equals virtual machine, then the section should be applied. And if it's applied, then we set ignore all to 1. So to disable answering pings. So let's save it. So correctly, successfully created, I get. And of course, some additional information. So if I want to change my own node, then I can use the edit command. But since a custom node is no different than a shipped one, of course, you could create as well override files. So Before I apply the node, let's look behind the curtain, what happened. Again, our etc saptune directory. This time I have to look into the extra subdirectory, and here I have my node file, node name with the suffix .conf. So similar to customizing a node, you don't have to use the create command. You could just prepare the node file somewhere and just copy it into the directory, and then Saptune is able to use it. So let's have a little action to see if my node really works. So let's ping myself, and we'll see ping still works. Our ICMP sequence numbers is increasing. So this should change if we apply our node. Why? Still sequence number 20, 21, 22, and it stopped after the node has been applied successfully. Let's have a verify. And we see our parameter, it's expected to be 1, it is 1, everything is compliant, wonderful. So, and if I revert the node, then it should continue 52, 53. So this is an example how it looks like if our tag matches. So let's edit the node. Copy of this line because I need data, and let's say I want this product family. Let's made up something in imaginary system name or a vendor. At least important thing, currently on my system, this tag will not match anymore, and therefore the section should not be executed. So, do it again. Still our ping works. I apply the network underscore VM node, applied successfully, and we see the ping still works. Let's do a verify, and we see nothing. It appears to be that the node is empty, but we know it has content. So the verify command will always only show the parameters in the table which are really applied and effective for the system. So if I have a look into the log file, we will see what Saptune has done. There's Saptune directory, and there is Saptune. And here at the end, we will see the string DHS and section definition sysctl product family does not match the content of the file sysclass DMID product family, which has the content of virtual machine, skipping whole section with all lines till next valid section definition. So this is the explanation why we have a node with content, but we see nothing here. So I'd say, before we finish our section, let me correct my first revert the node and then edit it again. For my next example, I want that it should write my system again. So that's it. A summary: if you need an additional configuration which is not provided by any shipped node, simply create your own. So, in the next topic, we are talking about how to changing the solution. So, why would I do this? In our last example, we have created our network underscore VM node, which we want to apply on our system. So yeah, of course, you could apply the HANA solution and in the second step, apply the node. So 2 steps to configure all of my systems. So would be much easier if I somehow could integrate my own node into an existing solution, so it simply remains applying a solution, and my own node is also attached to it. Of course, it could be possible that you not only want to create additional nodes to a solution. Also, a reason to do to modify a solution could be simply because certain nodes do not apply, which are part of the solution in your company. So it's before you apply a solution and reverting the nodes, you can customizing the solution to your needs. And I have already mentioned the correct step, which we have to do, of course, if we want to change something which is shipped with Saptune, we have to customize it. So we have customized a node before, and now we are going to customize a solution. So the command for that is saptune solution customize HANA. After hitting enter, I get an editor, and here I get, similar to what we have seen with a node, I get a copy of the existing file. In this case, it's solution. And again, please only let anything left in that file what you really want to change. So first, the version part, I move. Then I have 2 sections with all the node files for the solution. One is for x86 and one is for PPC, so IBM Power. I don't have any IBM machines, so I do not need that. So what's left in my file is that I want to change the node list of my HANA solution for x86. And now I can delete nodes, or in my case, let's end. M, same name as used before. And now I save. And I get an important information here. You just edit solution is already applied. To get your changes into effect, please revert the solution. Again, we just have changed the configuration, but we have to tell Saptune that it should apply the change. So let's have a look how our solution looks like. So Saptune solution list, and what we see here, there is our HANA solution currently applied. We have an override file, and we see an interesting thing at the end. The network, our network node is part of the solution, but it's striped through and marked red. Both are new to 3.1, so you won't see this in 3.0, but in any case, the node should now be part of the solution. And simple reason is because I have reverted that node in the last step, so it's currently not applied. So Saptune detects there should be network underscore VM should be applied, but currently isn't. So what we next have to do, let's revert the solution and reapply the solution. And if I apply the solution again, my ping, the upper screen still running, should immediately stop. So Saptune revert all. Everything has been reverted, and the next is Saptune solution by our ping. Let's see, 578, 579, 580. And it stopped 583, most or less sequence number, and all tuning options for sub solution have been applied successfully. Let's verify this. and we see everything is fine. And here in the end, we see that our node has been executed as well. So that's simple as it. So if you want to change an existing solution, just customize it. If you think that the changes you will make to the solution is too major, or the solution is altered too much in their meaning, maybe if you delete half of the HANA nodes, then consider creating your own solution instead. And I won't show this here, but it's similar like we did with the node, just with a solution file. Our final topic in the session is how to avoid typical pitfalls. And I have chosen two issues we have seen several times in support cases. So the first one is that subconf gets in the way of subtune, and this is normally the case if you install a /for SAP application system, that subconf gets installed and subconf automatically enables itself and tunes the system for SAP workload. But in most times, if you have a /for sub applications, you want to switch to subtune instead. And now you have the first problem that subconf is in the way and subtune will not work because both tools can detect each other. So if you start a subtune, it will check first if there is subconf, and if there is a running subconf, it will say, oh, no, the system is already tuned by my, let's say, colleague, so I won't do anything. So let's create such a problem. A little script here, it's called wake subtune, but it only disables and stops subtune service and starts and enables subconf instead. So let's have a subtune status. Always the first command you will probably issue to see if everything is okay. And yeah, if you know where to look for, you see the problem immediately. Our service is disabled and inactive. We have an enabled solution, but applied, the HANA solution is not. And also we see here, and this is only visible in 3.1, that we currently have no tuning. So Subtune is prepared to tune the system with a HANA solution, but currently it doesn't. So it's very easy. I could now start a Subtune, would run into a problem because it will not start because it detects subconf and so on. A recommendation would be to issue a script which we ship with 3.0 and of course 3.1, and it's called Subtune check. What Subtune check is doing is that it verifies if Subtune is set up correctly. What it will not do is checking if the tuning is correct. This still has to do separately, for instance, with Subtune node verify. So the script will only find or detect problems in regard to service problems or tools like subconf and Subtune fighting each other. And our script has also found already 4 problems. It says subconf service is active enabled and Subtune is inactive and disabled. So that's the reason why Subtune does not tune my system. And it's not only listing the issues here, it also gives some hints how to resolve the problem. So of course I could stop and disable the service of subconf, and I can start and enable Subtune, or I can do it all in once by just run Subtune take over. So let's check again. And now the script says everything is fine. Yes, there is a warning. The warning comes from an RPM save file of etc sysconfig subtune that must be created when I updated my package in our staging example. So as a good administrator now, of course, I would investigate and see if this poses a problem for my setup. But in our example, let's leave it as it is. So what I forgotten to mention in Subtune 3.1, the Subtune check script will also be available as a command. It's called Subtune check, but in the background it does nothing else but calling the script. So in 3.1 we have both ways to have the same result. And if we now have a look at the status output, it should look like exactly how we started our session. We have our Subtune service enabled. We have the HANA solution enabled and applied, and we see that our tuning is fine. Please remember the tuning compliant line is in addition to 3.1. In 3.0, you don't see this. To check if the tuning is correct, you have to run a subtune verify command. So that's the first typical problem I want to show. The second one, which we see very often, are conflicting entries in sysctl. So let's create such a problem. So I open etc sysctl.conf in an editor. Normally it's empty, and let me copy in some additional lines. And if you look closely, I think most of you are familiar with these entries. These are lines which are typically added by the HANA database lifecycle manager on update or installation. But these all are parameters which are also partially mentioned in subnodes, as well, of course, are part of subtune. So now we could end up with a problem, especially if the settings or the values of the parameters are different. And this happens maybe if this file was created very old, it's very old in there, or maybe rolled out by sort of a configuration management tool, which has not been, or the content of the rolled out files have not been kept up to date. So in this scenario, luckily we don't have a problem because the values are identical, but this does not have to be the case. And depending which tool comes last, either sysctl will tune your system or subtune will do it. Anyway, you have a potential problem here. Because this problem has been seen so often in the past, Subtune 3.0 comes with a detection especially for that problem. So let me first, to keep it simple, only one node, but I've seen our HANA solution is still applied. So let's revert everything first and apply only one node. And then I will show you where to look for or how to spot this kind of problem. So let's node apply. Oh, type that wrong. And I want to use the node 2. Good Lord. 2, 3, 8, 1. So, and if I hit enter, you see the first time that Subtune is telling you with a warning that something might be a problem. And you see here, warning, the parameters net core max con, TCP max and backlog, etc., defined in the following config file. And here you see the file and the value which the parameter has. So just an explanation, because earlier I edited etc sysctl.conf, but saptune tells something about use our libsysctld99 in current installations. This is a symlink. So if you edit sysctl.conf, in reality, you edit this file. So that's the reason, because the difference between what I did and what I see. So this is the first hint you get that something might be wrong if you apply something. So could we say you apply it automatically and don't see therefore these messages? So also, if you issue verify, you also get informed that supposedly we could have a problem. So note verify again. And you see the same warnings here at the beginning, but also in the verify output, you have this footnote here, which normally explain a little bit more in detail the background of the parameter. And if you see the 11, then this is exactly the problem or a possible conflict that you have additional entries for this parameter in sysctl.conf. And here you see exactly that parameter is additionally defined in sysctl config file. So in this case, luckily, because the values are identical, we don't have a problem, but at least this is something you should resolve. My suggestion would be either remove the entries from sysctl.conf, but keep in mind, if you do an update of HANA, then the lifecycle manager could edit again. So this is kind of process. Or you say for some reason that you want sysctl handle this, then you can tell Subtune to leave those parameters alone. We have already seen in our first example with customizing a node how to do this. Just create an override file, customize the node, and just leave the value of these parameters empty, and then Subtune will not take care anymore of it. So, and I guess we have reached the end of this session. So thanks you very much for listening, and have a nice day.